The courtroom was tense that morning, but the story behind the case was heavier than any gavel strike. Judge Judy sat poised, scanning the faces before her. 3 generations of one broken family standing in front of her bench. At the plaintiff's table stood Fred Webb, a gray-haired man with tired eyes that had seen too many sleepless nights. Beside him sat his wife, silent, clutching a tissue in one hand. Across from them was Richard, Fred's son, 40 years old, tense and defensive, and standing awkwardly near him, the boy at the center of it all, 15-year-old Richard Jr., the grandson whose name had now become a court file number. The audience could sense it before anyone spoke. This wasn't a fight over money. It was a fight over responsibility, guilt, and blood. Judge Judy's tone was brisk but curious. "All right," she began. "Looks like the cast is as follows. You, sir, are the plaintiff?" "Yes, ma'am," Fred replied. "And this is your son?" "Yes." "Grandson?" "Yes." Judy's eyes landed on the teenager. "How old are you?" 15, the boy answered softly. Judy's gaze returned to Fred. "Is this the grandson in question?" "Yes, ma'am." She leaned back slightly. "You are suing your son for support, retroactive support, for a time when your grandson came to live with you." "Yes, Your Honor," Fred said. "Then why don't you tell me why he came to live with you?" Fred exhaled deeply, the sigh of a man who's repeated the same painful story too many times. "My son and his ex-wife called and said they couldn't control Richard anymore. They said he was becoming a street kid, on drugs, skipping school. They told us they were going to make him a ward of the state of California until he was 18. The courtroom went quiet. "They even put him in a mental institution in Bellflower. That's where we picked him up." He paused, voice cracking slightly. "My son and his wife promised to help us support him. We knew the boy had problems, drugs, anger, you name it, but he's our grandson. What were we supposed to do? Leave him?" Judge Judy asked sharply, "When did you have this conversation about support?" "1st of June, around then," Fred replied. "We picked him up on June 12th. "And what was said exactly?" "They both agreed to give us $100 a month, each, to help take care of Richard. I told my son I couldn't afford it alone. He said he'd help. His wife agreed too. We even went before a notary and signed papers." Judy's brow arched. "You signed papers?" "Yes, but my copies are missing. All my files are gone." Judy raised a skeptical eyebrow. "You mean papers stating your son would pay you $100 a month?" "Yes," she turned to Richard. "Is that true?" "No, it wasn't," he said flatly. The courtroom shifted. The tension between father and son was electric. Judy asked Fred, "What happened when the boy came to live with you?" Fred's voice softened. "We tried to get him into school. He'd been out of school for 7 months. He was failing the 7th grade. So I called the governor's office in Utah, tried to get help for tutoring. Finally, we got a summer tutor to prepare him for 8th grade. His eyes glistened. We wanted to give him a chance." "How long did he live with you?" Judy asked. 11 months in total, up till Christmas." "What happened at Christmas?" "We met his father in Las Vegas at Caesar's Palace. We let Richard spend time with him, told him maybe he should take the boy for a week or 2. He agreed. Then after a few days, he called and said, 'I'm deciding to keep Richard.'" Fred's shoulders slumped. "A month later, he called again. Said he couldn't handle him. The boy ran away, wasn't going to school. Then he called again. Said Richard had been caught for burglaries. My son didn't want him anymore. He petitioned the court to make Richard a ward of the state. Then the court called me and asked if I'd take him back to Utah to keep him out of the system. And I did." Judge Judy's face softened for the first time. "And how long did you have him then?" "Until October," Fred said. "Then my son came up and stole him from us." "What do you mean he stole him?" Judy demanded. "He came up to Utah while my wife and I were at work. My daughter called me saying that Rick showed up with a sheriff and took Richard away." Judy turned to the boy. "Is that true?" "Yes," he whispered. "He was released to your father's custody, right?" "Yes." "So your grandfather had no legal right to pick you up after that." "Right?" Judy sighed. I didn't even read those papers, and I know that. Then Judy's voice shifted, firm, factual, but not unkind. Let me tell you what they did, Mr. McCracken. California saved itself $100,000 by sending this boy to Utah instead of paying for him to stay here. They made him Utah's problem, your father's problem. Then she flipped to the counterclaim. You're suing your father for $2,000 for mental anguish to your son? She stared him down. You don't get a penny. Not a cent. You made your 15-year-old problem your father's burden. They raised you. You dumped your child on them. You don't get to sue for pain when you created the storm. The courtroom went silent. Richard's face hardened, but Judy didn't stop. You have other children? Yes. How many? 3, he mumbled. So you raised your children. And then, when your child became a problem, you called your father and said, "Help me out." He took him. And when the boy got in trouble again, you washed your hands of him. Where exactly do you think this countersuit comes from? You've been reading too many fiction books, sir. The audience chuckled, but Judy didn't. Now let's talk about your father's claim. She turned to Fred. How much money did your son send you while his son lived with you? $100 gift certificate. Sears, I think, Fred said. Judy blinked slowly. That's it? A gift certificate? Yes. How many kids do you have? 1. From behind him, Fred muttered. He has 3 others he doesn't claim. Judy's pen stopped mid-note. You don't support your other children? She asked Richard coldly. He stammered. I have 1 child. You have 3, Judy corrected. Let's not play games. She paused, letting the weight of her words fill the air. You work? Yes, ma'am. West Sanitation. I put air fresheners in restrooms. And how long have you worked there? 6 years. You're 40 years old, Judy said. You've been working 6 years and still rely on your parents to clean up your life? There comes a time when you have to stop visiting your problems on your parents. She flipped another page. You applied for welfare while your father had your son? Yes, Richard admitted. How much did you get? 2 payments of $250 each. $500 total. So your father had your son for almost a year, and you sent him a $100 gift card and took $500 in welfare? Judy's eyebrow arched higher. You can't even feed a goldfish on that. Laughter broke the tension, but Fred looked down at his hands, too humiliated to smile. Judge Judy's verdict came fast and sharp. Your agreement was for $1,100. You got $480. I won't credit you for the gift certificate. That's ridiculous. So, I'm awarding you $620. Richard's face tightened. He didn't have him for 11 months, he argued. Only 9. 6 months the first time, then 3 later. Fred nodded quietly. He's right. It was 9. Judy adjusted without blinking. Fine. Award reduced by $200. Final judgment. $420. Then, unexpectedly, she looked at the boy. Richard, are you in school? Yes, ma'am, the teenager said, his voice barely above a whisper. How are you doing? Better, he said. A and B student now. That's good. He's going to NA, Richard added proudly, to get off Zoloft. Judy's eyebrows rose. Excuse me. The court ordered him to go to NA meetings because he was taking Zoloft. Judy stared at him for a moment, then burst into her signature half-sarcastic fury. No, sir. They do not send you to NA meetings because you're on Zoloft. They send you there for cocaine, crack, meth, not antidepressants. Don't say dumb things, especially to me. The audience laughed again, but Judy wasn't joking. She turned back to the boy. You were doing drugs before, right? Yes. And your grandparents saved you from going to juvenile hall, didn't they? Yes, ma'am. You've been in jail before? Yes. And they saved you from spending more time there? Yes. Did you thank them? Yes. Fred's wife scoffed audibly. Judy smiled faintly. Do you write to them? No. Do you think you should? They told me they didn't want anything to do with me or my dad, the boy muttered. Judy leaned forward. I think your grandparents would like to hear from you. Even just a note. You think you can do that? The boy nodded. Yes. Judy's expression softened for the first time all morning. Good, that's all. The gavel struck, but the sound didn't erase the ache hanging in the air. The case was over. $420, a few bitter words, and a lifetime of damage. Fred and his wife left the courtroom slowly, hand in hand. They didn't care about the money. They just wanted peace. Richard stood still for a moment, staring after them. Maybe, for the first time, he saw his parents not as nagging old people, but as two souls who had sacrificed everything to raise him and then his son. The teenager followed his father out, glancing back once, his eyes full of confusion, torn between loyalty and gratitude, between the man who gave him life and the ones who tried to save it. Outside, Judge Judy's words still echoed like truth carved into stone. There comes a time when you have to stop visiting your problems on your parents. Fred knew she was right. His son had grown up, but somewhere along the way, responsibility had stopped growing with him. For every sleepless night, for every prayer whispered into the dark while his grandson fought his demons, Fred carried not anger but exhaustion. Love, after all, can be a heavy burden when it comes without help. Lesson: families break when accountability ends. No parent should have to raise their own child twice, once as a boy, and again when that boy becomes a father who refuses to grow. Responsibility isn't something you inherit. It's something you choose every single day.